I've been asked this question more times than I can count. Why don't you have kids? Sometimes it comes with genuine curiosity, and other times it's more of an assumption, like somehow I'm missing out on something fundamental. It's an interesting question, though, and one I've thought about a lot. I understand that for many, having children feels like a natural part of life. But for me, it simply doesn't. I've spent years reflecting on why I've made this choice, and here are the reasons I've come to. From a very young age, I've never had that primal, undeniable urge to become a mother. It's something I've witnessed in others, and I think it's beautiful. I see my friends and family who have kids, and I can tell it brings them immense joy and fulfillment. But for me, it's just never been something I've deeply wanted for myself. I wasn't that little girl dreaming about her future children or planning for the day she'd hold her baby in her arms. I've never had that instinct to nurture a new life in the way that some people do. I don't feel like I'm missing something crucial by not having children. In fact, I feel like my life is full and rich with meaning without them. I used to think there was something wrong with me for not having that drive. Growing up, it was the expectation. You'll want children, won't you? The question came up so often, I started to wonder if I was just missing something everyone else seemed to feel. But over time, I realized that not everyone is meant to have children. Not having that particular pull doesn't make me less of a woman, or any less capable of loving and contributing to the world. This one is hard to admit, but it's real. I have serious reservations about bringing children into the world as it is today. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but when I look at the state of the planet, rising temperatures, environmental degradation, and the threat of natural disasters, it scares me. The future feels increasingly uncertain. I wonder about the kind of world a child would inherit, and I often ask myself if it's fair to bring someone into this climate of instability and suffering. It's not just the environment either. I think about the political climate, the polarization, the rising inequality, and the constant unpredictable upheavals in every corner of the globe. Every time I turn on the news, I see more division, more suffering. I wonder if I could, in good conscience, bring a child into all of that and ask them to navigate a future where the stability we once took for granted seems so fragile. This may sound dramatic, but it's a concern that weighs heavily on my heart. While I believe in the resilience of humanity, I also know that many people today are struggling just to maintain a sense of security and peace in their own lives. I don't want to subject a child to that anxiety and fear, especially when I feel so unsure about how to face it myself. I've never been one to romanticize parenthood. I think there's a lot of pressure in society to paint it as this purely joyful, life-altering experience. But in my observations, the reality is much more complex and often much more difficult than that. Parenthood is demanding, it's exhausting, it requires sacrifices that are not always acknowledged or appreciated. It's a 24/7 job, and the responsibilities never stop. It's not just about the cute moments, the baby snuggles, or the milestones. It's also about sleepless nights, constant worry, and never-ending work. I've watched my friends and family go through this, and I've seen the toll it can take on their physical health, their mental well-being, their relationships, and their careers. I'm not saying that's a universal experience, but it's a reality for many parents. And I think it's important to be honest about the sacrifices involved in raising a child. I've asked myself if I'm willing to give up my time, my energy, my sleep, my body, and my personal freedom for someone else, someone who will rely on me for everything. The answer, honestly, is no. I have so many things I want to accomplish in my life, and while I admire those who manage to balance parenthood and career, I don't think I could do it without feeling like something important would always be missing or sacrificed. I want to be able to focus on my work, my creativity, my passions. I want to be able to travel without restrictions, to take spontaneous trips, to stay up late working on projects without worrying about waking up to feed a baby or take a child to school. I love my freedom, and I'm not sure I'm ready to give it up for something that, while incredibly rewarding for many, doesn't appeal to me in the same way. What I have realized over the years is that not having children doesn't leave me feeling empty or incomplete. Quite the opposite, in fact. I've created a life full of experiences, personal growth, and relationships that are meaningful to me. I have the space and time to focus on my career, my hobbies, and my friendships. I have a freedom that I deeply cherish. I can sleep in if I want to. I can go on a whim to a new country. I can read books for hours without interruption. I can dedicate myself to causes I care about without worrying about finding a balance between that and parenthood. I think a lot of people assume that not having children means an absence of love or fulfillment, but that's simply not the case. I give love to my family, my friends, my community. I mentor younger people in my field, and I have deep, fulfilling relationships with people who feel like family to me. I pour my heart into my work and into making a positive difference in the world. I live a life that feels rich and satisfying, full of growth and contribution, without the need for children. I'll be honest, sometimes I feel the weight of societal expectations. There's a certain mold that we're supposed to fit into, and not having children often feels like an exception, a deviation. But I've come to believe that the mold is just a construct. It's okay to choose a path that doesn't involve parenthood. It's okay to decide that you want to live your life differently. I don't have to follow anyone else's blueprint for what a fulfilling life looks like. I have the freedom to define what happiness and fulfillment mean for me. For some, that means children. For others, it doesn't. And that's okay. There is no one-size-fits-all. Life is too short to follow a path that doesn't feel right for you just because it's what's expected. I've always felt that there's a certain kind of pressure to conform to societal norms around parenthood. That pressure can make it feel like there's something wrong with you if you choose not to have children. But in the end, I believe it's just as important to create space for other people to make their own decisions without judgment. I respect the choices of parents, just as I hope they respect mine. Parenthood is not the only way to live a meaningful, impactful life. In the end, not having children is not about rejecting the idea of family love or community. It's about living intentionally and choosing a path that aligns with who I am. I've spent time thinking about what I want my life to look like, and having children just doesn't fit into that vision. I know that my choice is not the right one for everyone, and I respect those who choose differently. But for me, the decision to remain child-free is one of the most authentic decisions I've made in my life. It allows me to focus on my passions, my growth, and my contributions to the world in ways that make me feel truly fulfilled. And in the end, that's what matters most. Living a life that feels true to who you are.